Hello, everyone. Happy Earth Day and welcome to today's webinar. My co-hosts and I are excited to present an overview of XPGEO for you today. Before we begin, though, I'd like to address a little housekeeping. So first off, we have a Q&A panel, and this is where you'll be able to type any questions that you may have throughout the webinar so that we can address them for you. We'll also have a dedicated Q&A session at the end as well. But just make sure as your questions come to mind that you put them in there. We do have some people watching those so that we can answer them while we're going through the webinar, and also we'll have some time at the end again to address them too. Next, we also do have chat enabled, so feel free to drop us messages in there as well. So if you're having like any issues or anything like that, you can message us through the chat section. And then lastly, we will be conducting 3 different polls throughout the webinar, and you'll see them pop up as we come across them. So I just wanted to make sure to give you a heads up that those will be coming around. So with the housekeeping done, let me go ahead and introduce everyone. Currently speaking is myself, Tony. I'm a customer success manager at GEO Jobe. I also have my co-hosts, Lexi, a customer success manager at AerialSphere, and Jocelyn, the product manager at AerialSphere. Last but not least, we also have Nick, who will be keeping an eye out and responding to the chat and Q&A throughout the webinar today. And before we dive into XPGEO, I want to talk a little bit about GEO Jobe for any of those who haven't heard of us before. We were founded in 1999 in Tennessee and are currently a platinum partner with Esri. We've always been an adopter of Esri's newer technology, especially in regards to ArcGIS Online and ArcGIS Enterprise. And everything we do, we try to incorporate that into our DNA. As part of that, we've accumulated a number of specialties, and I've got a few of them up on the screen here. But most of you that are already familiar with us are probably familiar with us because of our products. So most of our products are well known, especially amongst the marketplace, with our most popular ones having over 10,000 individual organizations. Our current products are admin tools, Backup My Org, Clean My Org, and Scheduler. And we've got people all over the world using our products and our services. This map here shows kind of our global footprint, where we currently work with people for both our professional services and our product standpoint. To elaborate a little bit more on what we do at GEO Jobe, we offer a number of services and solutions. So for instance, we have a US-based 24/7 support. So whenever you buy any of our products, you receive that, and they even help regarding some of our professional service engagements as well. We do offer GIS services. These are the folks that work with ArcGIS Enterprise and all the configurations with Portal or online, data management, creation, scripting. Then we also have software services, and these are our folks that create custom applications, extend the capabilities of EXP using custom widgets, integration, and mobile apps. And then we also have a UAV, UAS division, collecting both imagery and LiDAR. And then finally, what actually brought y'all in here today, we have our partner solutions, and we are going to be focusing on AerialSphere's XPGEO. We signed our partnership with AerialSphere last year and have been working on growing and developing together ever since. We've got a couple of photos here where we met at the user conference last year, and also from when AerialSphere came down, and we got to meet and mingle a little bit. And as promised, I'm going to go ahead and pull up the first poll question here. So give me just a moment. There we go. So our first question is, are you working with non-traditional images such as drone, terrestrial, 360s, things like that? And we're going to give this just a few moments so that everyone has an opportunity to answer. And then once all the results have stopped trickling in, we'll end the poll and I'll share the results so we all can kind of see, how many people are working with these different types of imagery, these non-traditionals. So give it just a few moments here as people are still responding. And all right, that's about what I expected. So let me go ahead and share the results here. So as we can see here, a majority of y'all do have to work with some non-traditional imagery. So that's going to be one of those things that you're going to want to keep an eye out as we're going through our demonstration today. So I appreciate everyone for your responses, and let's take a look. So let me stop sharing that here. So without further ado, I'm going to go ahead and pass things over to Lexi, and she's going to begin their overview of XPGEO.
Nice. Thank you so much, Tony. Let me pull up my screen here for y'all. All right. So as Tony mentioned, I'm Lexi Zadis, the Customer Success Manager at AerialSphere, and our company helps users make the most of their imagery by creating ArcGIS-ready content. We do this through solutions which empower you to harness the full potential of your imagery, making it easier than ever to visualize, manage, and leverage location-based data. To help users create ArcGIS-ready content and make the most of their imagery, we offer a few different products, each with their own specialty. Today, I'll be highlighting XPGEO, which is the easiest way to turn non-traditional imagery into actionable GIS data for mapping and analysis. Imagery in GIS has traditionally been synonymous with orthographic imagery, or top-down static views of the world. But today, I'd like to shift that perspective. Non-traditional imagery, in particular oriented imagery, is a powerful complement to the advanced GIS systems that you're already using, like we saw on the poll that Tony shared. All oriented imagery requires to get started is metadata. Solutions like XPGEO Studio help users edit their metadata and create catalogs quickly, efficiently, and simply. Together, let's examine how this emerging technology seamlessly fits into your workflows and how you can start leveraging it right away. Oriented imagery allows precise real-world inspection by aligning images with spatial coordinates. This is critical for industries and applications that require detailed visual context, such as urban planning with assessing building conditions and zoning compliance, infrastructure assessment. We've seen this example a lot in situations like monitoring roads, bridges, and utilities, or in the use case that you see here on this slide with emergency response. By using imagery, we can quickly understand damage. And if we put these images in a GIS system and add other layers, we can coordinate recovery efforts and better grasp resource allocation and damage assessments. So let's take this idea a bit further. The images that you see here were taken post-Hurricane Helene using just a smartphone. Our CEO traveled to Asheville capturing imagery on her iPhone as she drove around. And at first glance with these images, we can see clear structural damage. However, several critical questions still remain, such as where exactly are these buildings located? Can we view these images on a map for better spatial reference? What did these buildings look like before the disaster? And what type of structure was here before? These are the kinds of questions that raw imagery alone can't answer. So, after returning from her trip, our CEO uploaded these images to ArcGIS Online. This simple step allowed us to view the images as thumbnails on a map, and this helped provide basic location information. While helpful, this still leaves a gap in context. Sure, we can see where the images were taken, but we really don't understand direction, perspective, or pre-event conditions. Now let's take this a step further. By processing these images as oriented imagery catalogs in XPGEO Studio, we unlock a whole new level of insight. We can view images as interactive attachments instead of static thumbnails, as shown in the right-hand viewer window. We're able to see both the image location and the camera direction on the map. The image location is represented by the green markers, or the exposure points, and the camera direction is represented by the triangles, or the viewshed that's coming off of those markers. And lastly, we can gain perspective, not just where the photo was taken, but where the sensor or camera was facing, as shown by the viewshed direction. This helps me better understand what I would see if I was standing in Asheville facing a certain direction. The orientation unlocks a whole new level of understanding complicated imagery. I can better comprehend the damage in Asheville by processing images as oriented imagery catalogs. And with this, we now have more context. We know where these buildings are located within a GIS. But what if we could compare this to pre-disaster conditions? That brings me to my next piece. One of XPGEO Studio's most powerful capabilities is the ability to load and compare multiple oriented imagery catalogs. Here we have two catalogs, one of which is pre-Hurricane Helene imagery, as shown by the blue circle exposure points on the map. This shows us intact structures like we see in the viewer window. We also have post-Hurricane Helene imagery, which is the green exposure points that we saw on the earlier slides. By comparing and contrasting the two data sets or the two oriented imagery catalogs, we're able to compare and contrast damage. So here we see that this building was once an urban winery at the corner of Lyman Street and Foundry Street, backing up to the French Broad River. Now we can not only analyze the impact and understand damage, but we can track recovery efforts over time. Perspective imagery within GIS generally falls between two extremes. On one end of the spectrum, we have basic geolocated photos. These are easy to capture, but they lack depth and precision. On the other end of the spectrum, we have photogrammetry and LiDAR, and this is highly detailed, but it requires advanced planning and costly software. Oriented imagery falls in the middle and bridges this gap. It combines the ease of geolocated images with the precision of 3D models, allowing for actionable insight without the complexity. With oriented imagery, it's more than just a picture. Each image carries rich metadata, such as pan, tilt, roll, and this enables true spatial analysis. XPGEO Studio requires minimal effort while offering maximum insight. Capturing usable imagery is as easy as taking a smartphone photo, but Studio delivers real GIS-ready data. Studio integrates directly into your existing workflows, making imagery work for you. And now I'll pass it to Jocelyn for a live demo of XPGEO Studio in action.
Awesome, thanks, Lexi. Let me just share my screen here real quick. Awesome. All right, so today I'm going to show you an amazing tool that allows Esri users the ability to create, view, and edit oriented imagery catalogs in one application. The first thing that I will want to do is to sign in to either my ArcGIS Online or Enterprise account. I do want to add a quick note here that users must have a user type of creator or above and have a role of publisher or admin enabled in order to use XPGEO Studio. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to add some imagery to create my first catalog. There are two different ways that you can load imagery into XPGEO Studio. You can either load it from a folder that's on your local drive or on a server, or you can pass it an image list if your images are hosted in a cloud platform such as AWS, like in an S3 bucket. The imagery type options here, for standard, it's your typical drone terrestrial images that aren't 360 degrees. So right now, XPGEO supports DJI and Skydio that have metadata embedded into the images. The other option is you can load 360-degree or panoramic ECREX that, again, have the necessary metadata either embedded into the ECREX or is provided in a CSV. So for my first demo here, I am going to navigate to some iPhone photos that I took around my neighborhood. So now that I've successfully uploaded the folder, there are two options. You can either view it on a map, which I will show you in a little while, or you can create a catalog by clicking what I consider the easy button of all the images that you just loaded. So thing that you got to do here is just give it a name and then click publish. And what it's doing right here is it's taking the imagery, reading the metadata, and converting and doing all the calculations to get it into the necessary format and oriented imagery schema. So I have published an oriented imagery catalog rather quickly. And here you have two options. You can click the button here that says show item and contents. This will actually take you to your ArcGIS Online or Enterprise content page. All the things that we do within XPGEO Studio goes directly to the user's content page. So I'm going to actually view these in XPGEO Studio. Zoom out here. So you can see here, I got some points and triangles. As Lexi mentioned, these points here are actually the point or exposure points of where the sensor was when the image was captured. The triangle or viewshed is the direction the camera or sensor was pointing. So now that we've viewed our imagery, we can also edit the catalog that we just published. So the first thing that you'll want to do is you'll want to open up the attribute table. And I'm going to clear my selection, make things a little bit easier here. All right, so we have our attribute table open, and as you can see, it is formatted into the oriented imagery schema that is necessary. So cam heading, cam pitch, cam roll, all that fun stuff. So one of the fun things you can do is you can actually add a field to your attribute table. And just click add. And you can scroll all the way over and you can see that the new field has been added to your attribute table. Now what I want to do is I want to add my name into that field because I was the person who took the picture. So I'm going to select the image here, click edit, and scroll all the way down here and add my name. But please note, all of these fields here in this pop-up are editable. So I'm going to click update, exit out of here, and I'm going to scroll, oops, all the way over. And you can see my name's been added. Another thing you can do in regards to editing is easily delete an image that you may not want in your catalog. So you can see that this image here has been selected. In order to remove it from the catalog, click delete, and then confirm your deletion here, and you can see live that that image has been removed. And as I mentioned before, any kind of edits that you're doing to your oriented imagery catalog within XPGEO Studio automatically get saved to your contents on either ArcGIS Online or Enterprise. The last thing I'm going to do is show you all how to append a catalog. So I'm going to go back to the image tab and I'm going to add a second folder of iPhone images that I took on a different day. And now you'll see a button that says add to existing catalog. So I'm going to click that. If you have multiple catalogs loaded in Studio, you'll have a drop down here. So you'll want to select the catalog that you want to add the images to. But since I only have one, I'm going to go ahead and select that and click add. And once again, it's going through processing the metadata, publishing it to the contents of the user. And another thing to note too is that when you use the folder selection when creating a catalog, the images are referenced to the catalog as attachments. If you use an image list, it will be referenced by URL. So as you can see, I have added a whole other block of photos down here. And if you want to remove catalogs, just go ahead and click this button here and click remove. Awesome. So next I am going to load an image list of XPGEO images that were taken to do some asset management along a utility line. I'm going to navigate to the text file and click next. Now, as you can see, the uploading and the processing when we do publish of using an image list goes a lot faster than using the folder option with having the images attached to the catalog. As a matter of fact, I just ran a test a few days ago and I was able to successfully create a catalog of 30,000 images using an image list. So this time I'm going to click View on Map. And we see the exposure points here on the map. And I'm going to zoom in and I'm going to click on one of the exposure points. So once again, we have all of our metadata here. If one of the cool things about this option is that you can actually edit metadata prior to publishing a catalog if need be. Making these minor tweaks to some images captured by devices that may not have super great accuracy is really a great value for this tool. And sometimes, you know, those devices are usually like iPhones or Androids that the accuracy just might be slightly off. But for dramatic purposes, I'm going to go ahead and show you editing the cam heading so you can see that your tweaks, you can actually see them live. All right, so I loaded up a whole bunch of images, but I only want a few of these in my catalog. So I just click one of the selection tools here, draw a bounding box around it, and I'll click publish. I am going to give my catalog a name, and I'm going to click publish. And once again, it's going through processing, looking at the metadata, getting it into the format before publishing it to your contents. So I'm going to view this on the map and click on one of the exposure points, and you can see the images here in the viewer. Now I'm going to switch over to a video to highlight other capabilities, including loading published catalogs and 2D and 3D scenes. I'm switching over to a video just because we sometimes have slowness with these steps during virtual demos. So to load published catalogs, just click Add Catalogs here. It takes you straight to your content. So whatever the user has permissions to view in their contents, they'll be able to load it up here. So I've just loaded up a whole bunch of Ladybug 360-degree images. And you can load up images that were either published, or I'm sorry, catalogs that were published in Studio or through ArcPro. Now, one of the cool things that we've added is the ability to add a pre-made 2D map or 3D scene. And this really adds a lot of context to the story that you're trying to tell with your oriented imagery. So this particular 3D scene is with LiDAR that was collected at the same time as the Ladybug data. So you kind of want to get your orientation right here, and then you'll click on the exposure point. And as I said before, having the LiDAR in a 3D scene, it really gives a dramatic view with the view shed and what you're looking at. It's a really powerful tool. All right, well, that wraps up the demo of XPGEO Studio. We are going to do a quick poll, and then we'll give a demo of XPGEO Multiviewer and how we used it in a super fun project.
All right, thank you, Jocelyn. Hi, this is Nick Marquardt, Chief Experience Officer at AerialSphere. And our question for you now is, does anyone in your organization or have you ever used Esri's Quick Capture tool? And I'll give people a few minutes to respond to this, and we'll take a look here for a few seconds, I should say. All right. All right, so if people had a chance to make their choice and take a look at those results. And the reason I asked that question, okay, about half of you. All right. That's great. So what we've been seeing so far, what Jocelyn and Lexi have shown us, is converting imagery that's been captured through other devices at this point, 360 cameras and smartphones. But Esri's Quick Capture software actually has the ability to create catalogs right out of the box. And Jocelyn's going to give a great example of how to take that data and apply it, some of our experience builder widgets, other tools to make that data even more powerful. So with that, Jocelyn, I'll let you take it.
Awesome. All right, so in 2024, I was able to attend my very first Esri Fed conference with a bunch of team members from AerialSphere. And this was my first time going to Washington, D.C., and I was super excited about it. So I actually flew out with our president and COO a few days early to do some sightseeing. And before we left, being the geospatial nerds that we are, we decided to put together a fun project so the rest of AerialSphere could kind of see our touristy adventure, if you will. So the first thing I did is I went and created a quick capture project. And what was very cool, like Nick mentioned, is the fact that you can actually create oriented imagery catalogs through quick capture. So I sat down and kind of got a list of all the different tourist categories we could experience in DC. I added them as buttons, if you will, to the project. And as you can see in the upper left-hand corner, there's a camera icon, which means that they are enabled to create oriented imagery catalogs with the pictures that we take. So once I completed the project, what we did was we downloaded the Quick Capture app to our phone, scanned a QR code, and this project came up. So as we were going through Washington, D.C., if we saw something cool, we would hit one of these buttons and we would take a picture. And in the Experience Builder project that I created, it would automatically update showing the pictures as we took them in real time. So going over to the Experience Builder project here, you can see on the right-hand side here, we have all of those categories, right? All those buttons that had little cameras next to them. So these are all oriented imagery catalogs based upon the photos that were taken when we clicked those buttons. Now, this is our XPGEO Studio multi-viewer. The value of our multi-viewer is that when using Experience Builder, the Esri default oriented imagery catalog widget only allows users to see one catalog at a time. As you can see here, we have several catalogs loaded, each with an individual color, and you can toggle them on and off in your experience. So I will just show you here a quick demo of what we saw in Washington, D.C. This has to be one of my favorite pictures and views within this experience. It really does give you a great perspective of where the picture was taken. The 3D thrust room is so accurate. This, again, is a 3D scene that I created using OpenStreetMap 3D buildings. And then we can navigate over to Capitol Hill. This is another one of my favorite photos that we took. Using the multi-viewer, a lot of different verticals can use this, right? From disaster response to utilities with asset management, inspection. It really does add value to the dashboards and the projects that you create in Experience Builder. All right, well, that's all that I had for you guys. Thank you so much for your time. I will pass it back to Lexi for some closing remarks.
Thank you, Jocelyn. Good demo. Right, so in summation, XPGEO Studio is an incredibly user-friendly solution. It's ideal for both technical and non-technical users, and it helps make imagery in GIS more accessible and, most importantly, more actionable. One of Studio's greatest strengths is its flexibility. It's a lightweight, adaptable solution that delivers metadata-rich imagery directly into your ArcGIS Online or Enterprise environment. In doing so, we're helping users better adopt, understand, and apply imagery within GIS workflows. Catalogs published in Studio can be used anywhere oriented imagery is supported, from ArcGIS Online, or like Jocelyn showed us earlier, in Experience Builder. And finally, Studio delivers real-time results. As Jocelyn demonstrated, any edits are instantly reflected in a user's published catalogs, which can be critical in fast-paced situations like the Hurricane Helene emergency response scenario we discussed earlier. It's just as valuable for utility field crews inspecting infrastructure after a storm, or for environmental teams monitoring erosion or vegetation changes over time. When time and accuracy matter, XPGEO is a powerful tool to have in your arsenal. Thank you all for your time and attention. It's been a pleasure sharing XPGEO Studio with you, and I'll pass it back to Tony.
All right. So first off, I've got the last poll question for everybody here, which is, can you see yourself using XPGEO Studio to add efficiency to your existing workflows? And while I get my screen shared here again, we're going to let that question run. So let's see here. Dun, 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 dun. There we are. Well, we've got quite a few results coming in. All right. All right. Love to see it. Give us just a few more moments while we let the last few people here finish submitting their answers. All right, now let's take a look at these results here. So we can see that there are a few of you that agree that immediately y'all have some workflows that this could address. A couple of y'all seem to still be on the fence. For those of you that are still on the fence, I highly encourage that you reach out to either the GEO Jobe or the AerialSphere sales team, so we could probably get some more like one-on-one time with you to show you some of the specifics that may help you exactly go through and improve your current workflows. I also want to say hats off to Lexi and Jocelyn. They always provide an amazing dynamic duo and fantastic demonstrations. And I know there's been some questions within the chat and Q&A, but I do want to provide a couple of details here that may help address some of those. So first off, XPGEO starts at $6,000 per year for your organization. And as a thank you for attending today's webinar, all attendees will receive an email that contains a promo code, and that will get you your first 2 months free. Also, if you're still on the fence about things, we do have free trials available. So make sure to reach out to us if you want to take it for a spin. And any additional information, inquiries, anything that you need, once again, you can reach out to the sales teams at either GEO Jobe or AerialSphere, and I'll be dropping those links into the chat for everybody. But with that said, I want to go ahead and open it up to Q&A time.
Yeah. Feel free to drop your questions in the actual Q&A chat. We did have one question come up in the chat regarding 360 video. And I'll probably take that one. Currently, 360 video is not necessarily supported out of the box in XPGEO Studio, but that is something that AerialSphere might be able to support through a kind of a custom solution. Just a lot of variables with video collection and metadata that get involved. Wouldn't you agree, Jocelyn?
Yes, that's exactly how I would have answered that question, Nick.
So while we wait, let's see. So a question came in, Jocelyn. How do you get X, Y, and camera direction metadata?
So a lot of smartphones and sensors have that metadata that actually gets embedded straight into the image. So your X, your Y, sometimes with the camera direction, it comes in either heading, pitch and roll, omega, phi, kappa, or yaw, pitch and roll. And XPGEO recognizes where that camera direction metadata is coming from, and then it basically does the calculations to get it into the heading, pitch and roll that's needed for the oriented imagery schema.
Yeah, excellent. I'll just add, since I did talk about quick capture, and the advantage of using quick capture is that quick capture, for smartphones anyway, turns on all the sensors of your phone at the same time. It's really a brilliant little piece of software that Esri's produced that really, as you saw in that example Jocelyn had, gave us some really great accuracy when it came to placing those photos. Another question for you, Jocelyn. Do you allow capturing assets directly from oblique or 360 imagery in XPGEO?
I guess I don't understand fully what that question means. Do you allow capturing assets directly from oblique?
So, possibly there, and Xander, feel free to elaborate, but do you mean like AI extraction of assets, possibly? And we can we'll give Xander a minute to respond to that. So here's one for Lexi. So other than creating the oriented imagery data set, what are the advantages of this tool over the oriented imagery tools in ArcGIS Pro?
That's a good question. I mean, I think a really big advantage is just the ease of use. Anybody who's even not very GIS savvy is able to use XPGEO Studio. Also, once you have your published catalog in ArcGIS Online, you're able to share it with your organization really easily. So I think the accessibility and the shareability really makes it a standout. And Jocelyn showed us how much of a time saver it is too, which once you start using some of the solutions that are built into Pro, you might realize that Studio is a bit of a time saver as well.
Yeah, I recently did a kind of a time test with the difference between ArcGIS Pro and XPGEO Studio. And for about 2,500 images, I saved myself using XPGEO Studio about 25 minutes.
Very nice. So Xander offered some clarification. When looking at 360 imagery, capture something that is shown in the image and have it geolocated correctly in a hosted feature layer. So I think the idea of measurement and placement, Jocelyn, might be the question there.
Something shown in imagery and have it geolocated. Yes. So at this point in time with measurement, the viewer does allow for images to have measuring capabilities enabled. You do have to edit your attribute table to add an accuracy field to do that. And also for better accuracy of the measurement, you'll probably want to have a depth image if available.
Yeah, good point. Christian asked, can you add metadata to older photos like historic ones? And if y'all don't mind, I like to take this one because this is actually a pet project of mine. And the answer is yes. It is possible to add metadata to older photos that maybe didn't have metadata added to it. Personal aside, we're doing a local GIS group experiment here where we're going to take historic photos of a park that had saguaro cactuses in it and go basically find where those photos were taken, capture them with our smartphones so we have new and old photos, but using the metadata and then manipulating that metadata like you saw Jocelyn do to get it accurate for what the old photo had. So there are options for adding metadata to images, which is one of the strengths. The ability to see it live kind of in frame is another advantage XPGEO has over some of the other solutions for this. But it's an exciting proposition. And so I think there's lots of opportunities for that in the future. So does AerialSphere offer solutions as a standalone outside of Esri? And I think this kind of gets to some of our XP360 stuff, the other solution. Lexi, you want to take that one?
Yeah, so outside of Esri, we have our own geo-enabled panoramic viewer. It's called XP360. It's a AerialSphere built, again, panoramic viewer, so it does only work for 360s. And at first, it was made as an AerialSphere solution, but now we've opened that door for anybody who's capturing 360s to really use our viewer. It's API-enabled JavaScript. And for whoever asked that question, sorry, I'm not able to see who asked that, but feel free to get in touch with me, and I'd be happy to set up a separate demo to go over XP360 with you. It deserves its own hour to be talked about.
All right. And then Jocelyn, are the images stored as attachments within the OIC, or do you have the ability to save within AWS S3 or cloud storage?
So yeah, so when loading up the images, if you select the folder option to load the images and then process them that way, they're going to be stored as attachments to the oriented imagery catalog. If you use the image list, it will only use the URL to the images as a reference. So it wouldn't be like with the attachments, obviously you have some kind of, you may have some concern with credits and stuff like that, but using the image list option, it's just a reference. So chances are the credit consumption would be very minor.
Okay. So the next question, the panoramic images from 360 cameras like Mosaic and Ladybug are 72 megapixels. Is there a process for tile generation to present images online?
You want to take that one, Nick, or you want me to?
Sure. So I mean, I can start, and Jocelyn, correct me if I'm wrong. So actually, AerialSphere has experience feeding tiled 360s into the oriented imagery viewer. We currently don't have that support baked into XPGEO Studio. I think this is where, again, professional services could come in and support things like, optimizing, loading times and things like that with large tiled images. But at present, we're just working with solid Equirex within the viewer. But again, this is something that our company has experience with in the past, and I think this would be kind of fall into that professional services solution. I'd love to talk to you. All right, then I have a few more questions here. Let's go back to the question. I apologize, Xander, if I missed the clarification here. So when you're looking at 360 imagery to capture something that is shown in the imagery in GEO, okay, no, I think we have it correctly located. We did I think address that. It really depends on some of the other variables in the metadata and the ability to edit, have an editable feature layer available that should be, so that we can address later. So does Studio support the creation of oriented imagery layers? And I'll tip that to Jocelyn.
Okay. At this point in time, no, but we are actively working on getting this capability added to XPGEO Studio. So it is in development and we are making great progress. What kind of sensors are currently supported? So for our standard kind of image, DJI and Skydio, but again, you got to keep in mind that the correct metadata is embedded into those images. So making sure that the orientation metadata is there, that the XY, the elevation. For our 360s, we do support DJI, Ladybug, and Mosaic 51 sensors. Again, it goes back to making sure that we have the correct metadata for that orientation and XY and the elevation. What sets your Experience Builder widget apart from Esri's native widget? So Esri's native widget for Experience Builder only allows you to load one catalog at a time. Our XPGEO multi-viewer allows you to load multiple oriented imagery catalogs. Who is currently using Studio? I'll pass it over to Lexi.
There's a few different major players. I would say as far as markets go, we've had a lot of traction within utilities as well as transportation. But there's a lot of applications. So like you saw us walk through today, our emergency response is a great example. We have a partner that is in fire safety and mitigation. So we're trying to break more into that field as well right now with Studio.
Yeah, I think it's an exciting new technology. I think it's still new for most people, the idea of using non-traditional imagery in GIS to this level. And so it's going to continue to advance. I think people are going to find new workflows. So we're also looking for the opportunities to kind of break in and add new value to people's data. And, someone asked about how many seats are included with the subscription. So we start with 5 seats. And that really is meant to enable your team, not just your GIS analysts, but also your field teams who might be collecting drone data, smartphone data, 360 data, to let them use it. Again, you're not having to tie up a professional GIS analyst time to create this data. You could actually have that as part of the workflow when a team comes back they already created something that's shareable and usable by other members of their team. So the basic subscription starts with 5. If you need more seats than that, we'd love to talk to you and figure out what the right solution would be. But again, we really want this to be something that's not just the hands of your GIS pros. This is truly a tool that's so easy anyone can use it and start creating GIS data. Jocelyn, you want to talk a little bit about the requirements for that? Like, what are the system requirements?
The system requirements, I think the biggest thing is your internet connection and speed. And that really, for the most part, I have standard internet. It's not anything great like fiber or anything like that. So, and it works great for me. We've used it on Chrome, we've used it on Firefox, we've used it on Edge. So, all of those work. But if you do have higher internet connection and speed, just kind of going back to something I mentioned earlier, one of our employees has fiber connection, and she was able to create an oriented imagery catalog out of 80,000 images. So there is some flexibility if you do have higher internet speed, but overall it works on Mac, it works on Windows, it works on Chrome, Edge, Firefox. So that's basically it.
Yeah, that's a huge one for me, actually. I'm a Mac user, so I cannot create I can't use ArcPro, essentially. So this is the way I can create catalogs. And that does go, we have a question from Emily in the chat. How long does it take to get started with an image catalog or or an old hard drive? So I think the question there is, what does it take to get started? Jocelyn, I know you just did the demo. You want to just talk to it?
It doesn't take a lot. As long as you have XPGEO Studio, you have the right permissions with your Esri account, either ArcGIS Online or Enterprise. It's good to go as long as the metadata is there. I can't stress that enough. Got to have the metadata.
All right. I think we got through most of the questions that we had in the chat. If anyone has anything else, please ask it. I want to thank everyone who asked questions. That's really encouraging. Again, AerialSphere, we're big believers in the power of oriented imagery. We think it's going to really continue to evolve, find greater adoption, find greater use, and that's really what XPGEO is meant to do, is just enable more people to have access to this technology, regardless of their technical level or their equipment level. I think there's just a lot to be said for adding that spatial context to your maps.
All right, Nick, I think that is all the questions that I see coming in. Remember, everybody, if you do have any other questions come up afterwards that perhaps you've just slipped your mind for the time being, you can always reach out to us. And other than that, I'd like to thank everyone for your time again today. We're going to go ahead and wrap it up here. And like I said, if you have any additional information that you need from us or any questions, reach out to us at either sales@geojobe.com or sales@aerialsphere.com. We'll be more than happy to help. And I hope you all have a great day.